Let's go. Brilliant. Okie dokie. Charlene, welcome to Yorkshire Business Focus. I'm Ian Strachan. It's great to have Charlene Lyons here from Black Sheep Brewery.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Charlene. Let's roll straight into it because, I mean, you've got probably, one of the best jobs in the world for most Yorkshire folk as the CEO of Black Sheep Brewery. So Charlene, what was the journey to get there? How do you get the plum job of the CEO of Black Sheep Brewery?
Well, it's definitely a privilege to be doing what I do, so I completely agree with you. I joined the business as a consultant many years ago and then was invited to become the CEO 4 years ago. Took on the role 6 weeks before pub shut, so that wasn't great timing.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. But actually, learned an awful lot and was probably, listen, COVID was horrific and continues to be for many people. But from a kind of professional perspective, from a learning perspective, it was really quite amazing.
Absolutely. So what was that? The difference between consulting and then getting to real life and then getting that hammer blow of COVID. So what were those learnings? What really got hammered in the fire of those learnings?
I think there was a few really. The first one was around like vulnerability. And I think that I learned very quickly that even if you're in a leadership position, it's okay to say you don't know or you can't or help or I got it wrong. And I think that that's really important. Just showing that vulnerability in leadership actually is a really powerful tool, and being able to do that. I think that the other thing was actually around the kind of pace of change. So we're very used to in organizations, all of us, I think, writing strategy, writing business plans, but actually it's okay to change those plans and pivot depending on what kind of what challenges you're being faced with and what needs to be done in order to be able to react. And I think the key things really were fairly powerful learnings for me.
Absolutely, I get that. And you say, so the vulnerability there was also included asking questions from others. So who do you have around you that you can refer out to? Because they often say running a business is a lonely place to be. So who stands alongside you and who supports you? And maybe there's some regular people that you expect to see there, but who else do you have in the wider network that brings you support and help?
It's a really interesting point, because I think going back years, the word coach or mentor was, it was almost unheard of really, and it's now become more of a prominent feature, certainly, amongst my network. I suppose when I look at support and help, I'm talking about my advisors, our lawyers, our accountants, various people like that, but also my peers. So not necessarily kind of paid consultants or paid, but people that you speak to because you meet through the industry, or people that you just meet because actually you share a common purpose. But actually, from a Black Sheep perspective, we have a fairly flat structure. So, I don't lead a particularly intensely hierarchical organization. It's not who we are. You're measured on output and contribution, not on title. So there's no real sense of arrogance. So actually we work well together, and I would quite happily say to somebody that knows much more, for example, about brewing around the table, can I take your advice on this? And just because they're not the CEO doesn't mean that their contribution isn't absolutely 10 times more valuable than mine.
There's an old hanging on belief that a lot of leaders like to think they know more about the business. They can do it better than anybody else in the business. I'm picking up from that you're not a great believer in that particular mantra.
I like to surround myself with people that know a lot more about detail than I do, and I think that's what makes good leadership, quite frankly. I think that the ability to be able to drive and focus comes from having knowledgeable people around your table and part of your network.
So drive and focus, tell me about that in the business.
So we're all heavily driven to succeed, and our success criteria are probably not dissimilar to most success criteria of organizations. But I guess what I mean about drive and focus is around that kind of delegation of power. And I use the word power very loosely, but I guess what I mean by that is it's our job as leaders to make sure that we are empowering and bringing people up through the organizations. Nobody in a leadership position wants to be able to be making every single decision around the table. So our job is to make sure that other people feel supported, empowered, inspired, and able to contribute and bring those, suggestions, decisions to the table.
Brilliant. How do you make people feel empowered to make those kind of decisions?
So empowerment is not something that you can just do. You don't just sit there in a meeting and say, you're empowered, you do it. It's all about action, isn't it? It's about making sure that people feel trusted and respected and valued. And those things are, you lead in that way. So we create, I hope, a culture whereby people feel that they are supported to be able to do, their jobs to the best of their ability. And if they make mistakes or something goes wrong, we've got their backs. And that's, I guess, almost the starting point for us and for me, certainly in our organisation. I trust 100% until I've got a reason not to. And it's the same with respect. And I think if you asked anybody in any of my teams, they would absolutely back up that point. I absolutely back my team and have no reason not to, unless I'm given a reason.
And what's the mechanics behind that? If you have that trust and that respect going off, and you're almost allowing other people to take risks on your behalf, what are the mechanics behind that? How do you actually do that on a day-to-day basis? Because it seems to be one of the things that's lacking from businesses that can't progress, that can't forge their way forward. Is how do they build that culture within the business of being able to go out and make your own decisions and feeling you have the trust of the leadership?
Well, I guess it starts with everybody knowing what their job is, right?
Okay,
So
cool. Nice start. Yes.
If you know what you're there to do and you know what your contribution should be and you know what people are asking of you and therefore what you're bringing to the table, that's the starting point. The second point is around the tools that person needs to be able to bring whatever they're to the table. And if those tools are there, fantastic. If those tools need to be, improved or extra training or development is required, we invest in that. So there's a piece there about tools, but then there's actually a huge piece around communication and just making sure that, we are not just saying these things, we're acting and kind of implementing these values daily. So if we're sat around the table and somebody is saying something, it's how we act. It's not what we say, it's what we do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I love that that's part of communication to you, but that's to the rest of the world. That's about congruence, I guess, across the board, that we're saying this is the values, but then you're living them moment by moment.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, how many companies out there have a set of, mission, vision, values that nobody knows what they are and nobody knows what they mean and nobody knows how they identify with them? Whereas the way that we created our mission, vision, values is kind of bottom up, top down. So we did a huge survey not so long ago whereby we included feedback from every single person in the organisation. Awesome. Who are we? What do we want to be? Who do you feel we are? What does our organisation stand for? And then we did loads of different focus groups, and then we kind of created our mission and our vision and our values on the back of that. And it's not just a set of words, and we're changing it at the moment actually because we've done a kind of piece of reflective work. But it's not just about the statements, it's about how you use those statements. So where are they made? How do people act based on those kind of statements or judgments? And that's kind of how you, I guess, instill cultural values and humanistic values into an organization.
Oh, absolutely agree with that. Tell me about the focus groups. What goes on in the focus groups that allows you to go, right, so here's a set of words that have come out of the surveys and translate those down into real behaviours. What happens in the focus group for that to take place?
Well, they're actually led and managed by anybody that wants to lead and manage, and you can be anything or anyone in the organisation. It doesn't matter. We asked for volunteers to come forward to host focus groups, and they were all the same. And I think we had 10 of them, whereby different people from different departments, different levels, attended, at random. And they discussed, these kind of core statements, how it made them feel. They discussed the feedback that we shared from the surveys anonymously, and we kind of got to a point where, who are we as are we a brand based on brewing, or are we a brewery based on a brand? There are all sorts of things. Really insightful, detailed discussion. And then from the focus groups, and those kind of inputs were then distilled and collated, and then the leaders of the different focus groups kind of got together to share their insights from the different groups, and we kind of boiled it all down, and we got to a point where actually everyone's kind of saying the same thing. in a slightly different way. So then when we shared that with the wider groups, asked for feedback based on, does this truly reflect the conversations that you had and what you were feeling and thinking? And the response was pretty much unanimously yes. And then that's kind of how we've got to this next stage of who we are or what we stand for and what we want to be.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I love that. Charlene, I think anybody that knows you will say you're really, really driven, that everybody knows you, knows the momentum that you keep up, both at work and in your personal life. What drives you in business to keep that speed? What drives you to keep that momentum going?
A few things really. I think firstly, balance is massively important. Yes, I'm the CEO of Black Sheep, which is why I'm talking to you today. But I'm a mum, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. I've got 3 kids. I'm a charity ambassador. I'm the vice chair of governors for a fairly big independent school in Leeds, well, the biggest independent school in Leeds. I'm busy. I have a busy, richly full life, and that enables me to be, I think, who I am, because you pull different things from different experiences to be able to kind of create this version of yourself that works in different kind of situations. If I was just the CEO of Black Sheep and had nothing else going on, I think I probably wouldn't have some of the insights that I currently have, which enable me to be, perhaps better at my job. But I also think, and that statement is right, give a busy person something to do, they get it done. And I genuinely believe that's true. I think you can always find time for the things that are important and the things that matter. And as long as you surround yourself with people that make you happy and that, people that you respect, I think that if you try and enjoy your days, then ultimately, you go on to achieve great things.
I get that. When did you decide on that version of yourself, though? At what point in your life, at what stage, what was it?
Probably from a really young age, actually. So my upbringing was unbelievable in terms of like love, warmth. My parents were at home, but my dad was a market store trader and my mum was a hairdresser. So for us, we didn't really have an awful lot of material things. And I went to a really great school, but I was a scholarship student, so my parents couldn't actually afford to send me. Somebody else paid for my education, and I think at that stage I felt really different. I felt a bit jealous. I was surrounded by people with insane wealth. Holidays every year, 3 or 4 holidays a year. Christmas was like something I've never seen before, and for me, I just felt different, and I kind of always took that with me. And by the way, I don't think those things were important, but my kind of 13, 14, 15-year-old self did really value those material things, probably much more than I obviously would now. But for me, I always knew that I wanted to succeed in whatever way that, whatever that looked like. And being completely honest, for me, success at that young age was around, material stuff. I wanted to buy shoes, I wanted to go on holiday, I wanted to go out for dinner, I wanted to do all of those amazing things. And actually now, if I look at my life now, if I was asked to define success, which I am often asked to do, I define it very differently, which is around, that sense of balance, which means, I've got 3 kids. My daughter plays hockey at a very high level. I want to be able to go and watch her hockey matches. My oldest son's just gone to university. I want to be able to drive to Birmingham and take him out for lunch. My little one's 10 and is in junior school, and I want to go and watch his year 6 production. I want to do all of those things. So for me, success is about life. It's not just about work or any one thing, really. I don't know if that answers the question, but that
really thoroughly answers the question and crosses off a few more questions that are on the list as well. That's absolutely brilliant. But one of the things, the phrase you used there was about feeling different. Something that came on a podcast I was listening to recently. You kind of touched on it in terms of the team you've got working with you as well. How important it is for us to have tribe and be a part of tribe.
I think the tribe's important as long as you feel that you understand what comes with that. I think the word tribe is an interesting one. So when I'm with my kids, or Josh was going to uni, and I said, I said to my husband, once he's found his tribe, I'll be fine. It's not the missing him that I'm worried about. I just want him to meet people and feel like he's part of something. But then actually, I feel like not having my tribe for probably a couple of years actually at school, I feel like I learned a lot about myself independently. So that's also fairly important too, because I think sometimes, you know, you can surround yourself with people all the time and then you often by default become what they are or what they think, and you adopt their values. So I think that strength of character actually for me certainly has come from having some level of independence and ability to be able to have that independent thinking that hasn't been consumed by the people around me. So again, I'm not sure that answers your question, but I think in a workplace, you surround yourself with people that A, in many cases know more than you, B, are equally driven, determined, focused to deliver your joint goal and objective, and finally, you share a common purpose. You know, we all want to do whatever it might be, and you all have that mutual respect that looks along the lines of, if somebody's, you know, failing or somebody's falling or somebody's, you know, massively succeeding, you celebrate it in whichever way you need to, or support it in whichever way you need to.
That's terribly un-English though, isn't it? To celebrate success as we go along.
Well, yeah. Although actually, I think we're getting better at it. I do have to say, I think that because we talk about celebration of success as being almost like a negative in many cases, to your point, I think actually many companies that I work with and many people are actually embracing it so much more, because success is not just about what you deliver on a balance sheet or what you deliver, you know, against a KPI. Success is about so much more. It's about what you actually personally bring to an organization.
Perhaps that's one of the great things that came out of COVID, is that people came to appreciate a little bit more than the actual material values we were looking at before.
Yeah, I think COVID was a massive eye-opener. I mean, in so many ways. And I think that the reflections from COVID are really powerful, positive and negative. And I think that actually one of the key things that we've learned as a society is that for many, not for every single profession, but for many professions, you can find your way, and employers generally are able to support and accept that. So, you know, if you've got young families and you want to be able to take to school twice a week, employers should be able to support that kind of work ethic, that kind of, you know, that personal approach. If you want to go and watch a nativity, hopefully there's an option to do the same. I mean, it's slightly more difficult for our brewers to work from home, but generally across the board other people do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you say that's what success looks like, isn't it? When we can actually have a richer and fuller life around it.
I think that's right. I mean, you know, when you talk about professional career and you talk about, you know, how did you become the CEO, and that's a great job and all of those amazing things, which is absolutely right and it's true. But listen, let's be frank, it takes an army, right? I mean, I don't do this on my own. And I'd be lying if I said I did. You know, not only have I got my amazing work colleagues that, you know, are hugely supportive and we're in it together, but I've got my husband who's incredibly hands-on, because we both value each other's careers and we both have full-time jobs that are important to us. You know, my mum is on my doorstep. She's unbelievable. She helps me with the kids. You know, I couldn't do this on my own. I am not Superwoman. So it's about almost, you know, understanding for anybody that's listening, don't try to do it on your own. Try and surround yourself with a network in and out of work that allow you to be what you want to be and who you are.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that's got to be the close of the interview right there. Surround yourself, the advice to business leaders, because so often I hear running a business is a lonely place. And yet the message from Charlene so strongly is surround yourself by people who will help you inside and outside of work. That's a brilliant message, is that?
Well, it's true. I mean, listen, we are not superhuman. And I think the quicker that we realise we don't have to be, the quicker we will succeed in whatever we try and achieve.
And obviously the more fulfilled we'll be as well.
Would hope so.
Absolutely brilliant. Charlene, thank you so much for the time today. It's been great going through that with you. And there's so much great stuff crammed in that short interview. Really appreciate it. Charlene, thank you very much for coming on Yorkshire Business Focus this week.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely brilliant. So to all listeners, thank you for coming along today. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll catch up next week. This is Yorkshire Business Focus. Thank you.